Hello, welcome to a gorgeous another episode where I have a wonderful, beautiful friend of mine who I'm interviewing today, Lorien Pichegru, who is a scientist and a marine biologist and a conservationist at heart. We are continuing the series of Uranus and Taurus, and today we are covering nature and what is happening, what has been happening, why it's happening, do we even know, and what do we do about it within our own homes and globally and together. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really nice to have you. Well, to be here, because I'm in your space. So yes, let's open with what it is that you do.
I'm basically looking at the impact of fishing on seabirds and African penguins in particular. And I've been working for the past 12 years on an experiment where we close some areas to fishing to see if closing to fishing can really help the penguins. Okay. And using the penguins because they're so cute and charismatic.
Right.
So once we demonstrate that closing to fishing is good, then we can apply to other seabirds basically on top predators. Okay. Because we know closing to fishing is good for the fish, but we've never shown before that it's also good for top predators.
Okay.
But it's been 12 years I've been doing that, and I've demonstrated a few times, but the penguins are still disappearing.
Okay, so penguins are disappearing. I mean, that is a huge deal. And we are in Algoa Bay in Port Elizabeth in South Africa, which is actually renowned for penguin life, right?
Yeah, we've got half the world of the African penguins just in our bay. And
wow.
Actually a few people know because they're on the islands, so we can't really see them on the shore, right, compared to Boulders Beach in Cape Town, which is very famous. So the public is not aware enough of the value of what we have in the bay and the importance to protect it.
Right. And so what has been happening over the last few years? When you say that penguins are disappearing, do you know why? Is that still under discussion, or is it quite clear why?
It's a combination of factors, so it's always that I suppose when the species is going down, but we do know that one of the main factors is the lack of food. So they eat sardines and anchovies, and so do we.
Right.
So the thing is, those fish, they're a bit particular because they're short-lived, so they depend a lot on the condition of the environment, on water temperature. So they're very sensitive. 1 year you can have a lot, 1 year you can have few. And they can go through cycles of decades of having a lot or less. But the fishing pressure is disturbing the whole cycle, because usually you have a lot of anchovies and a few sardines, and then a lot of sardines, few anchovies, so there's always food for the seabirds.
Okay.
But now the fishing is disrupting the cycles, and we don't quite know why. There's just less and less and less fish for the past 10 years at least, or 15. And we do know that when you've got these cycles, I mean, the fishing is just making those low time longer and lower. Right. And that's when the species are really at risk, and that's what we've seen. So that's the main factor, but then there's also climate change making the days hotter, longer, the summers longer. So penguins are adapted to cold water, they can't stand the African sun. Okay. So they normally breed in a burrow, in the shade, and we took the material where they buried the nests before, so now they're in the sun. So they struggle more, and then so a lot of eggs get cooked basically when the summer getting too long. Also we've got more storms that lasting longer, so they're colder in winter, that can kill the chicks. And then lately in Algoa Bay we've got the bunkering, so those companies are refueling large ships at sea. Okay. In the bay because it's sheltered, and we had 2 oil spills in 3 years, and we lost 200 penguins, which is really affecting the whole population. So it's just one threat after the other.
Right. And what kind of laws are in place as far as oil spills and even fishing? I mean, if you say fishing is affecting it, is it just our local fishing, or is it, are those fish migratory as well, and is fishing in other parts of the world also affecting that?
No, we know the sardines and the anchovies remain around South Africa, and the fishing is quite well regulated and compliant, and it's only South African companies. So that's I'm talking now about only sardine and anchovies. Right. But it's just less fish. So the fishery scientists from the government, they calculate the quota, so how much the fishermen are allowed to take, and they say only 10% of the stock But even that is just too much.
It's
because
too much.
where the fishermen is taking them is just exactly where the penguins are because of the the same.
Okay.
So that's so it's not much foreign fleet and
Okay.
yeah.
So let me notch this up a level and go deeper and say, or and ask, and obviously I know this is just your opinion, but at what point did we forget about other animals? At what point did we think we were the most important and we can actually just deplete, other species fish?
Yeah, I think forever actually.
Yeah.
It's, and I think that religion is really bad influence on it because it has been saying we are here to use the world and the animals are here to serve us.
Right.
And it's only recently, and since when, I don't know, but after the Second World War, we're starting to have a bit more consciousness, probably actually from some spiritual input from India, starting to reach the Western world, and we started realizing that we're a little bit more than just this top species using everything and abusing everything. So we realized there's a bit more connection actually between species, and we should cherish it. And now, especially now when I'm conscious of climate change reaching a lot more people and realizing the impact, so that awareness has been really spreading so fast, so quickly. I mean, it is too late because we have lost. I mean, we are big into the sixth extinction. Some people still deny it, and so we are going toward the sixth extinction. We are in it. Same with climate change. There are species disappearing every day.
Right.
But still, it doesn't mean that we can allow it to happen further, and we can stop it, and we can at least slow the process down and save a lot of loss, basically.
Right.
But it doesn't have to happen.
Well, if our penguins here become extinct, that's not where it ends. There's a massive, that is obviously food for other species, and so it becomes
It's also, the reason why we use penguins is because they are more sensitive, so they are sentinel, basically. They will be the first one that will go from the sea. Seals will be more resilient, but eventually, if penguins are dying, that means the other ones will follow.
Right.
So, and us, obviously, because now there's no fish, and it's now the fishermen are losing their jobs already. So we penguin scientists have been telling the fishermen, you guys are taking too much here, and you are going to lose your job. And they came to say, no. And if we close to fishing for penguins, we're going to lose jobs. Like, no, if you don't do that, you are going to lose your job later.
Permanently.
That's exactly what's happening this year.
Right.
They couldn't fish at all because there was no fish. The cost on the industry is huge. So it's obviously, if you don't take care of your surrounding and make your use of the environment sustainable.
It's not going to take care of you.
Yes. And then if it can't be renewed, and if you do something that can't be done in the future, you are going to lose it. As simple as that.
Right. And it's interesting also living in a place like the Bay, which is very diverse in species, and I mean we have the most beautiful whales that travel from.
Yes.
You could tell me more where from, but it's a very important part of the world. And I grew up here, and I was not taught about any of this stuff at school. It was not already instilled in us, and now, like you say, now that it's too late, although we hope it's never actually totally too late, but now we're scrambling and trying to teach. But in saying that, I mean, you guys have amazing programs that you have been taking into schools, and I've been aware also of more beach cleanups. People are really starting to rally here. So what do you think that is about? Is it just, I mean, obviously astrologically I can give my input, but what have you seen? Is it just because you guys are speaking out? Is it just a general raising of consciousness? Is it because it seems to be extreme? There are these people that are really rallying to help, and then there are these others who just don't care. This is my livelihood, so I'm going to continue this horrible cycle.
Yeah, but these people become rarer, and also being pointed fingers at, I suppose.
Right, so there's the egos involved as well, right?
Yeah, and once you get isolated or you're getting the odd one out, and I'm set in my own ways, and you will start questioning it maybe a little bit more. But I think it's a combination. It's the awareness raising is the key to really realize what we have. So that's what I've been really passionate about, especially as a foreigner coming to Algoa Bay and seeing the beauty, and it's almost pristine. So it is sad to see the penguins going, but there's so many beautiful things in the bay, and still so untouched compared to Europe or this place in the States. So that's why it's so worth fighting for, to keep it. Exactly. And awareness is the key. But the awareness also comes when awareness of what we have is more listened to, when you really realize from social media, from newspaper, whatever, that yes, it's climate changing, you should eat less beef and whatever. So then you start listening of what we have in the bag. So it comes together with every mean, I suppose, of awareness.
And coming together of the actual doing of it, because it's all fine and well making people aware of it, but to actually give people then tips, you know. So I mean, so Lorien was very involved in spas changing to paper bags, which is, I mean, it's a massive. You know, this is so much of what Uranus and Taurus is about, where you change things to be better, and then you kind of look back and think, well, why didn't we always do it like this?
Yes.
You know, and so that's very exciting, although obviously these next few years it's going to be, we're already feeling the changes. But what can we do? What can I do in my own house? You know, I mean, I have an 8-year-old son, so obviously it's key for me to get him on board right away, to understand, you know, not just a matter of, no, we're not taking the plastic, we're taking the paper, but he needs to actually understand why, because otherwise tomorrow he takes the paper, you know, the plastic bag instead of. So what can I do without my scientific knowledge like he would have?
Yeah, I think realizing the impact of plastic doesn't require any scientific knowledge. I mean, it's eyesore everywhere. We see animals entangled. You can't go on social media without seeing that turtle in the straw, in the nose and stuff like that. So that awareness, especially with plastic, has been crazy, exploding all over the world, and it really had massive positive consequences. Now it's almost, we'll get to look at people like, you've got a plastic bag.
Yes, you're almost really embarrassed to.
Yes, no, exactly.
Right.
And that's also education of the right people, like that manager at Spa, and then influence hundreds, thousands of people. So I heard one guy from Spa saying they didn't sell something like 25 million plastic bags less since they started. So it's huge.
And that hasn't even been around for that long, this initiative.
That's
incredible.
Yeah, big sense.
Wow.
So exactly. So you think it's just one person deciding we have to do something as a company. And the change is huge. So now everyone can do anything. So you keep on educating yourself for things. So stopping plastic bag is the first one, and then you decide, okay, you're going to have a bamboo toothbrush, and then you're going to have, you know, your water bottle that you carry all the time, not in plastic, etc. It's one small thing at a time that you can change. Getting towards zero waste, basically, but it's very difficult to be zero waste. But you can just try. Once you get used to, you could change one habit. And it's normal, and then you say, okay, what next can I change?
And get everybody in the house involved. Obviously, everybody on the same page helps.
Yes.
Okay. And then, I mean, there's so many questions and so much we could talk about. You know, when it comes to companies, I'm not sure how much you would know about this, but, you know, when it comes to, say, fining companies that are, like the fishing, for example, if they're just doing things that are not right, or the oil spills, you know, at what point can we actually be harsh about this? You know what I mean? It feels almost like there's this constant, it's okay. You know, so there's this like fine, but it's just a fine. There's no real actual bigger impact than that. And these companies are making enough money for it to just be, we'll just keep paying fines, you know? We've
been too silent, too kind for too long.
Right.
You know, and too politically correct. It's just wrong. And scientists first, because they keep on trying to tell the government, but haven't been feisty enough. And that is why now we see in the street all these kids saying, what? How can you have done that for so long? It's not as if we didn't know. We know for 30, 40 years what we're doing. So we must be a lot more angry in a way and harvest the anger and the positive.
Yes.
Change people that don't want to change and are aware of it. And then those climate change denials, all those people saying, but I'm going to fire that poor guy if I can't sell a plastic bag. Those reasoning that are wrong, totally wrong. Because whatever plastic bag you're selling, you're impacting someone else, and then that environment, you know, the money you're saving, you're making someone else's pay, which is an animal or the people in the township living in that mess. So it's everyone's responsibility. We have to be a lot harder.
Yeah. And to be kinder at the end of the day, right? Tough love.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to make people realize kindness is the key, and we have to care about each other. Our impact.
And each other means more than just humans.
Yes.
Very much so. And I'm really enjoying, the new initiatives that are coming out, because as we know, plastic, if it lands up in a landfill, it's there for, it just doesn't go away. So I've been seeing amazingly, really clever kind of initiatives where people have, all along our walkway along the beach, so there's the actual things you walk on is recycled plastic, and it looks like wooden slats, that's a really good way. So we are finally coming around also creatively. I've also seen artists where they actually take plastic and then it becomes a whole big artwork. But coming, back to that as well, when I'm looking at, if I think of us when we were children, we were obviously already open to this, so we are empathetic people, right? But when I look at the children that we are raising today, it's exactly what you say. There's that sort of harshness, there's that accountability now where we don't care anymore that it's cheaper for a company to create a plastic bag. That's not acceptable. So do you think in the next few years it's going to become easier to actually, when you first started educating people to now, what is the difference? Are people really just actually a lot more open to it, or are you still having to push through and really bring it home?
People are a lot more open to it.
Right. So we are actually, it's starting to make waves.
I think you have to, talk about the harshness. I mean, you have to first be aware of it. You have to then realize that this is wrong.
Right.
And then,
And how are social media helping us? I mean, I found in the beginning when I used to start seeing those photos of, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Now I realize I have to look at that.
Yeah.
It's my problem. It's no longer, somebody will sort that out, It's
yes, but then you also only need to see it once.
right, exactly.
But I do agree that the power of image is really important. And then it's the same in the meat industry or in agriculture in general. If you see once what's happening, you do step back a lot.
Right.
So it's the same with plastic. But that awareness is very important.
Yeah.
So we can't blind ourselves and say, I know this beef is struggling, but I will have my
But I'm still going to have the barbecue.
Do it awareness. Yes.
Right.
Awareness. It's just doesn't mean you have to stop and then say, no, you're responsible for that plastic bag. You can have. It's a matter of reducing your impact, because we will always have an impact. The way we live, we can't do it another way. Unless we change everything, which will take a little bit longer.
And also meet with so much resistance. Yeah. No cars, no planes. That means we're going somewhere very slowly. Which is the whole, if you think how fast our lives are and social media, that's quite a turnaround to try and think of. Oh my gosh, I don't have the possibility potentially to go to America anymore because I'm not traveling on the open water, for example. It just brings a whole new awareness to my own life. What I'm also aware of with social media and was wanting to know from you is, there are these sort of social media warriors. You've got to look at this and look at this, but what do we do next, If I walk down, like you were saying, it is so beautiful here and it is so pristine. I walk along the beach and apart from the rubbish that's lying here, I don't actually realize that there's plastic floating right here and affecting these beautiful creatures right here because I'm not seeing it, I go into social media, I see it, but okay, now where can I sign up to do something, other than just go and have a beach cleanup, which is very important. When does it become a doing thing?
There's always think globally, act locally, and then we need to act locally, and there's a need everywhere. But interestingly enough, that I know a little bit more about plastic pollution, there's not so much in the water. Okay. It's mostly, it's a lot coming back from the sea on the shore. So when you see the shore dirty, then it makes a massive difference to clean it.
Right.
And it's just as simple as that. Plus then it educates. I found doing beach cleanup is the best way to educate, because then you see what ends up, and it's a cigarette butts, a lot of lollipops or earbuds, and then you stop using that. And a lot of those sweets from the restaurants, they get blown away. It's not intentional. Yeah, for the cigarette butts, people still don't have the habit, but there's a lot of things. Since now I'm not eating any sweets anymore, but I wasn't away before. So if you do those cleanups and then bring people, and then also pass the message kindly. You know, like if you see someone throwing a cigarette back, then instead of saying, you know, like shouting at people, which makes a counteraction.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's just awareness with, because people just are not aware.
Yeah, it's definitely about kindness, and I think in many ways, I don't want to say that kindness is overrated because it can never be overrated,
No.
but I think it's almost treated in a shallow way. You know, you see these little, right, these little memes of, you know, if you can be anything in the world, be kind. Well, you know, eventually that doesn't mean much to you anymore.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you're saying, seeing it in action, being aware of it. And even though, like you say, we must get angry and it's getting angry at the right channels.
Yes,
you know,
and it's not necessarily people, it's angry against the wrong which is done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's the corporation, it's the umbrella of what it represents. Like you say, I mean, you can have many people working in a company who even themselves don't realize the negative impact of what is happening, you know.
And it's often another. Corporations are made of people. And then even the one on top would say, but I need to sell all these plastic bags because I need to make the money. It doesn't realize that it doesn't need to make the money.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like eventually we have to get out of that positive growth anyway, in that other consumers. It doesn't realize that it doesn't need a third car to keep his wife, you know? And that's the whole... So that's another kind of awareness, but in the end it's the same thing. Right. We keep on buying so much, polluting and wasting so much because we think we need to have so much. Even with having a son, I realized one day when he asked me, I mean, obviously as an adult, I'm aware they put the sweets on the way to the till because that's where you stand, you know. And he's, oh, can I please have this? And the more I'm trying to explain to him that what is in this is actually not good for you. And one day he just said to me, but why do they make it? And then it becomes like, okay, this is real now. It's the next step.
You know? Exactly, this is real. Even, I mean, I've had conversations with people where, even I remember, just maybe giving my age away a bit, but I remember a time when you had one family car for the whole duration of your childhood until you left home. Now people are buying cars every 5 years. Our cell phones, every second year we upgrade, and if we don't, they break and they don't work. It's almost like you don't have an option not to. So there's this definite, as much as the swing was to become this kind of consumeralized, which is not a word, but we're swinging back now to be aware of going back to the old ways. Exactly like you're saying, you know, we don't need the biggest, best new set of pots, really, we don't. You know, as long as they're cooking, we can use them.
Or a new phone,
Or a new phone.
We'll fix it.
Exactly. And the value of just putting that phone down and being with people, or going for that beach walk off of the phone, is tremendous. And so that is the point of talking about this transit, is really to show that we are beings, you know, we're not just human. There's so much more to us, and there's so much that we actually are responsible for. I mean, we are, you know, yes, like you were saying, where the Bible says that we have this world and we can use it, but we are actually the custodians of that world, which means we have a huge responsibility, you know. It's the same as this little dog that's lying here with us. I mean, you wouldn't dream of hurting him, you know, so we need to filter that out into the rest of...
Yes, but I think it's also realizing the belongingness and the unicity of everything.
Yeah.
So it's not only that we definitely don't, animals are not there to serve us, and we're also not necessarily custodian, because nature will be just fine without us.
Right.
Yes, there will be millions of
very
species
true.
less, and less trees and less oxygen, but who's going to die? It's us. So it's not only taking care of the other animals, it's just of the whole entity and unicity and being part of it, and then not forgetting, and just forgetting the idea that we are different. We are not a part of it.
And we're in charge.
Yes, that we are killing ourselves. We're species who is totally self-destroying, and we can grow out of it.
Yeah.
Because we all have that in ourselves.
And we must grow out of that, otherwise we're not going anywhere.
Because we all have been through those moments of self-destruction, especially teenagers, I suppose, and we outgrow them. So as a species, we can do that.
Yeah. And it's very important. And you know, there's obviously been a lot of controversy around Greta Thunberg, and I'm not going to go into that with you, but it's just to mention that it is wonderful to see, you know, such young, feisty, for lack of a better word, people, and when I say people, I mean children, that are really not allowing themselves to fall for it.
Yeah, and then inspiring millions.
And also shaking many other millions up that are going, oh, you know, and that's just as important.
Changing the world, really.
Exactly.
And everyone can.
It's revolution, baby. The
is.
very first video I ever did about Uranus and Taurus, that's exactly how I started it, was Welcome to the Revolution, because that's exactly what's happening. We are, if we don't revolutionize now, we are not going to make it very far, you know.
But it's already happening.
Exactly, and it's wonderful to see it in action so quickly. I mean, this transit started just over a year ago, and already, I mean, we're in the thick of it, you know, and we've got a good few years till 2025, so it's time to get real.
Yeah, and to be part of it.
Exactly, and to be self-aware of my part in this whole greater scheme of things.
Yes.
So thank you very much for chatting with me.
Thank you for giving that chance.
And definitely I want you guys at home to really become more self-aware of what you're doing when it comes to how are we treating nature, you know, what part are you playing, how are you treating yourself, how are you treating your neighbor, how are you treating the beggar on the street corner. It's very important to become aware of that, because not only do we realize how unaware we have been, potentially, especially in our day-to-day world, you know, with both mum and dad working, you know, we're just kind of left to... So self-awareness is key. Self-awareness and then community awareness, becoming, you know, going out and forming groups and going on those beach cleanups and having a ton of fun, because that's what comes out of it too. New friendships, new connections.
And belonging.
And belonging, exactly. So it's all good. So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.